I went through
just
2
in
pairs
case.
of slippers tonight.
Just in case, we're all gonna hold on to our drinks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what does this mean for the MCU? AKA the big reveal in the 5th episode of who I suspected was always going to be there from the laugh, because I know Vincent D'Onofrio's laugh. But I wasn't sure. I was like, they could switch, and it could be it could have been not Liam Gallagher. What's the guy from who was the voice, who was oh freaking hell. I'm so sorry, you guys. The guy who played Logan's brother.
Exactly.
In
Liev Schreiber.
Liev Schreiber.
Oh yeah.
I was like, they could have swerved on us and made Liev Schreiber.
Sabretooth.
Liev Schreiber was the voice of Kingpin in Into the Spider-Verse.
That's true.
So I was like, it could be Liev Schreiber, because he was also genuinely terrifying as Kingpin in Into the Spider-Verse.
Too small of a guy, though.
In the voice spectrum, yes, perfection. But in the body spectrum,
No. He's too thin and terrifying and tall, and terrifyingly tall.
I mean, that can still be terrifying. But
Yes.
as far as Kingpin goes, and I feel like they even added the pillows to him in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Because, dear God, his presence, and finally,
Yes.
we didn't really, I mean, we knew of his presence in the Netflix series, but in this, we knew.
The minute he walked on the screen, and my face was like,
waiting for him
Yes.
to show because of his connection with Echo in the comics.
But
Yep.
I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying his
physicality.
his physicality and his strength.
He's so imposing.
Like
Yeah.
that fight scene where he was like
thrown
off by it, where we all know he could have done a lot more.
He was holding back
He was,
so much because
because
she's a child.
Yeah, and he does. I mean, he is a villain in his right mind, but he is also a father.
Yep.
He is a husband.
Child. Yeah.
He
kept trying to keep her. And that was very. I actually really loved that when he was like, "You're in over your head," and when she shot him, it was like, "What?" And then did nothing. And she was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yes, you are playing with the big boys now,
you
honey."
are over your head, child. Like, as Hawkeye told you, like, you cannot. But she held her own for what she did.
She was smart to use her technology against him.
But we're gonna cross over in a second. But seeing him as Kingpin was so nice, because
I screamed.
He is
I screamed.
he is one of the perfect castings.
Yeah.
Perfect castings, and I mean, his breadth and depth of an actor, he can do a villain so well,
And still make you give a damn.
bodily presence of him is exponential. And it's funny because when I watched Into the Spider-Verse, I could just see him being him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like over and over.
Even though it was
over again.
Liev, I still saw Vincent D'Onofrio in my head.
D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked that one episode. They're like, oh, we killed him. Oh wait, no, he's not, because
he's not dead.
He's not dead.
As soon as they didn't have a body, I was like, he ain't
You
dead.
can see his
No.
shadow still standing in the background because they pan away to the wall. You can see his shadow standing upright in the wall. So he's not dead.
No.
And it fits.
That was honestly that collapse, that boom was nothing, and he was just like, I just want to let her go at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it. It's not, and he can get his money tracks from mommy.
So, Steven, how did you feel about Kingpin coming in?
Oh, it's the greatest thing ever. You're in New York.
You
are
can't
in
right?
New York.
This is his town, baby.
Apparently, everything happens in New York.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hell's Kitchen.
It's like New York or California. There's no in between with the MCU.
And
Yep.
Or Marvel.
Yeah.
Or London.
And now that you have him, you can bring in so many more villains.
Yep.
You could have another 2-3 seasons.
Yep.
And Vincent is Kingpin.
He is.
There are very few people in this world that fit a character him being Kingpin is one. Logan, Wolverine, yeah, that's another one. Good luck replacing them.
I already know who's his replacement.
Yeah, it ain't
They
gonna
want to
work.
listen to me, but they will.
It ain't gonna work.
But
We can try.
But you know what he needs in terms of like someone who has made a role iconic, and you can't really picture anybody else doing that role. Vincent D'Onofrio really
Yes.
owns Kingpin.
Yes.
In the way that like RDJ really does own Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Right.
It's
Even
going
though
to
I
be
don't
hard.
really
I
like
still
the
think that they're
character,
going
I
to
can admit.
I still to this day think that they're going to do a soft reboot of the character in some type of way, and bring him back.
Oh,
But
sure.
that's a whole other
Because
conversation.
variants are a thing.
It comes
so,
down to the actor.
Yeah.
The actor gets so much into that part
Yep.
that you feel it,
Yep.
Yes.
and you don't want to see anyone else in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like I said, I literally screamed when I saw him. When I heard the laugh in the third episode, I was like, I know that laugh. I know that laugh. But I was like, okay, maybe, you know what, because after WandaVision, and I'm glad they learned their lesson after WandaVision and didn't do us like that with the freaking Quicksilver shit. That I'm still angry about to this day. That shit pissed me off. I'm still mad.
Different opinions.
I'm still mad.
On this stage, just so you know, different opinions.
I'm glad they didn't juke us, and it was who we thought it was.
Uh-huh.
But I'm definitely I'm still pissed. I'm still mad about that shit. And so for me to see him and knowing that opens up the possibility of us getting the Defenders again, and it opens up the possibility of us getting the Heroes for Hire again, and actually seeing the Heroes for Hire. Because, y'all, I need Luke and Dane's friendship. It's one of the most iconic, non-toxic masculinity friendships in all of comic books. And those two actors together really complement each other and enjoy each other off stage, off filming. They are friends in real life. And so I need to see that happen on my screen.
Yes.
So then bringing him back just opens up a world of possibilities for me. Also, and I really like the way that they set up Echo's story because it directly ties into Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys remember this, that they were in love with each other in the comics. You don't remember this?
Yes.
Yes.
We're just
How-
reacting to Mary's reaction.
Echo
We
was.
know, but Mary's like extra excited.
Yes. How?
Electron.
Because she got brainwashed because of the shooting. Got basically brainwashed, and he was like, "Well, Matt Murdock is a good man, and and so Echo fell in love with Matt Murdock, who was trying to kill Daredevil, which caused a bit of a problem."
But it was so good.
It was such a great storyline.
Yes,
It was
you
such a
agree.
great way because at that point in the
Wow.
comics, he knew he was trying to basically get Matt to join his side and using his adopted daughter to do it.
Yeah.
And so it set up who she eventually becomes, which is one of the Avengers. So I'm like, I love the fact that the way the show ended, and it just, between this and Loki, it just opens up so much. There's so much, and then we're going to talk about No Way Home, which also we're going to talk about so many
You
things
could
that
bring
happen.
him into the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Especially since
There's like 10 more movies now.
Especially since originally, Kingpin was a Spider-Man villain, not a Daredevil. He became a Daredevil villain,
It's all
but
New
he was
York.
originally
I mean, it is all
a
New
Spider-Man
New
villain.
York is a hot
Hell's Kitchen is Hell's Kitchen.
I've never
Yes.
been to New York. There's too many villains.
I mean,
I would move out of New York if I lived in the MCU.
I
to be
would.
honest.
I
I'd
would
be in
but I'm
Iowa
not
with
that
Quinn's family and be like,
rich.
it's chill here.
It's chill here.
It's
So
chill here in the Midwest.
I'm gonna throw it to you, Mary. Your thoughts?
So, I agree with everything that everybody has said. For me, what's really fun for me is being on like TikTok. There are people who are just now apparently discovering the Netflix Marvel shows, and they're watching Daredevil for the first time because of Charlie Cox showing up in No Way Home and Vincent D'Onofrio showing up in Hawkeye, and they're seeing the background of these characters, and that for me is very exciting, seeing these people getting introduced to, honestly, just better writing. for all the Disney Plus in the MCU.
Ben Affleck did a great job.
You shut your mouth. You're not. I don't know why we invited you here.
It's about to go sideways.
I will say, in terms of I will say though, in terms of just hilarious coincidences, the fact that, oh god, I've already forgotten his name. He's Happy Hogan now.
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau going from playing Foggy Nelson in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie to being Happy Hogan. It's just hilarious, and I love that. But it's really fun to see people getting into the Netflix Marvel shows when they either never knew they existed or they just didn't have Netflix, and they're getting introduced to these characters for the first time because of Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home, and then they're going to get all this backstory.
So when these characters show up.
But my ultimate question is, are these the same Kingpin and Daredevil that we know from the Netflix shows, or are they variants? Because if they're variants, that changes everything.
Well, according to Vincent D'Onofrio, and this is an actual thing that would happen. Like, they spoke to the Hollywood Reporter about it. He and Charlie Cox actually had a apparently 3-hour phone call with Kevin Feige and the writers for Hawkeye, and figured out exactly which versions of these characters it is. And basically, during the blip, Daredevil disappeared and Matt Murdock disappeared, but Kingpin didn't. So on the finale, remember the finale of Daredevil, when he was in FBI custody, he was able, in that 5-year time period, able to rebuild because there was no pushback.
And that would make sense because Daredevil would be gone.
All of the Defenders died in the blip. So he didn't have any, there was no unite force to push back against him. So he was able to rebuild his empire, which is why we see him out of FBI custody and back, even in his fingers in even more pies, because he's involved with Eleanor Bishop's business.
Yeah. I have to say, I was one of the things I kept waiting for with watching Netflix's Daredevil was that I kept waiting for Echo to show up. Because like, she is such an iconic piece of Wilson Fisk's story.
Yes.
I was like, she's integral to
his
Wilson
story.
Fisk and to Matt Murdock. I was like, where is she? Like, don't get me wrong, I loved Elektra. Ella DeYoung, she killed it as Elektra. The entire cast of Daredevil.
Jennifer Garner.
Killed it. Shut the fuck up, Steven. Shut up,
Wow.
Steven, I don't know why we invited you here. Steven, I said I needed you here on my side for Hawkeye. You're just antagonizing me for no reason.
This is amazing.
But as much as I loved her as Ella DeYoung as Elektra, I kept waiting for Maya Lopez to show up because she's such an integral part to the Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk story.
Typhoid Mary.
And Typhoid Mary showed up in Iron Fist, and I was so happy to see her.
Yes.
But I kept waiting for Maya to show up. So to get her now, and she's getting her own show. I
wonder how much of that. I wonder how much of that has to do with, however, finding the right actress for the part. Because I really feel like, especially with Permaluder being gone now, they were very much trying to actually be, for once, true to the characters in the comics. And actually cast someone who is Native American and who is deaf. Yeah. And so this is Alaka Cox's first project ever. She's killing it. People don't even realize, literally, she's never done anything before this.
She just went in on a whim.
And
they were like, you are
exactly the person we wanted.
You're golden.
So I really wonder how much of the reason they didn't want, because, and this goes to one of the things about the Netflix MCU that does have over the main MCU, not just the Disney Plus shows, but the main MCU overall, the Netflix MCU tried very hard to be more inclusive in a way that, characters like Helen Cho in the MCU got terrorized in Age of Ultron and then never heard of again, even though she is the mother of Amadeus Cho. Yeah. And so we're supposed to just ignore how Wanda Wanda mind raped her, and we're just supposed to ignore that. So
because Netflix shows you get characters like Karen gets a much bigger backstory.
And a better
needs-
storyline than she had in the comics, to be honest.
What's so hysterical is that her backstory in the comics is way more traumatizing, and it's
so
still
bad.
traumatizing the MC.
But not nearly as bad as
But they toned
it
it
is.
down, but it's still bad. It's weird.
Yeah.
But you get
It's
characters
'cause
like
Frank
Karen.
Miller.
Yeah, you get characters like Karen who get a much bigger backstory that tie into multiple universes very easily, and then you get characters like Misty who can easily jump from any show.
Yep.
You get characters like Colleen, and Jessica Henwick said that she turned down the role in Shang-Chi of his sister. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation because I'm drunk.
We all are.
Zhu Jialing. I'm going to butcher that. I'm
That was
sorry.
actually right.
But she turned down the role of his sister because she was like, I want to keep the door open to
For-
return one day as Colleen Wick.
Yes.
But you get all these different characters who can, for the Netflix shows at least, who could easily jump from any universe and just pick up right where they left off.
Yes.
I would really hope that they get more, like, Iron
I
Fist was
just-
iffy, but after season 2 was better than season 1.
Yeah.
And Danny
It was-
was much better in Defenders because he had Mike Coulter to bounce off of, along with everybody else.
Well,
So
and I
I'm
will
gonna get
always
more.
say this. I've said it on the weekly podcast, and I'll keep repeating it until people start paying attention. But the problem with Iron Fist was not the actors; it was Scott Buck who ruined Dexter. And Inhumans, remember, Inhumans didn't even make it past what 6 episodes.
I don't want
I
to
will
remember, but I do remember.
And the
I
only
heard
common
that.
denominator says we've seen all of the actors who were in the
Yeah.
Defenders in other things, and they were all amazing in other things.
But
Then the question is, what's the common denominator?
Yeah.
Scott Buck.
Scott
but
Buck.
Yeah.
So
I will
yeah,
say,
because we
for
both
Iron
went
Fist
through that.
specifically, apparently, I'm sorry, Ollie. Sorry, real quick, and then you can go.
Okay.
Apparently, one of the stunt coordinators for Iron Fist
Mhm.
had said that some actors, and he referenced Jessica Henwick, were much more interested in doing all the stunt work and doing all the martial arts and committing to the time and training as opposed to other actors like Finn Jones.
I don't
Who can-
necessarily believe
I
that,
don't
and
know.
this is why I'll say why. Because when he was on Game of Thrones, he literally got himself hurt multiple times training for Game of Thrones.
I don't know.
So,
I'm not sold on
based
Finn Jones
on what I've seen of him and literally everything else, and how he physically has committed his body to his detriment,
yet. I want to
and
support
other
him because
stuff?
he called out Daenerys for her white savior BS, but
and
I'm
for
not
what he's
sold as Iron Fist.
It's I see. I love his Danny because he's so naive, and I think that if you play Danny Rand, you have to get that
I
part
loved
of him.
I loved him with Luke. I
And
liked
Yes.
that's a big part of him, and
His
that's
naivety
also
was-
a
naivety.
big part of his character development, and which they
Yes.
finally did show a little bit into season 2.
Yes.
Mhm.
But it took so long to get there, and the laziness of the writing for him to get there.
The writing was awful.
And it sucks because I believe that now because I've seen his acting
and
skills
everything else.
and
He's so
and
good.
he is very talented.
Yes.
His acrobatics is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were lazy with him, and that was unfortunate. Those series of the Netflix, that was the most lazy that they did, and it was unfortunate. But yes, especially once they brought them all together,
Yes.
you saw
Oh, Defenders was so good.
you saw like his acting ability, his physical ability,
And it was
Yep.
just-
and
it
the
was different
chemistry
writers,
that
too.
they
So
all
much
had together.
better.
Like they picked really
Great actors. Yep.
together. There was no denying in the Netflix series
When Defenders happened,
The Defenders-
and season 3 of Luke Cage when they were together,
like they
night and day.
Oh, yeah.
they
Night and day.
they did
He
their
needed
research
he needs
for the
better
characters.
writers, and he needed, honestly, no offense to some of the actors on Iron Fist, he needed better actors to play off of, like Mike Coulter, because they really do get the Luke and Danny friendship
Perfectly.
perfectly. And
Perfect.
so it made
Yeah.
not getting Heroes for Hire all the more bittersweet. But hopefully we might get that now, along with like Daughters of the Dragon. And
Oh
things
my
like
God,
that.
please yes. Please yes. So, we're going to go into, let me break this up a little bit, and we're going to go into No Way Home.
Where I'm gonna leave.
And we're going to wrap it up. Ron, do you have a special drink for us for No Way Home?
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Bert? Spider-Bert.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Spider-Bert!
It's the Spider
Sherbert.
Bird. It's the Spider Bird.
So we're going to get new drinks, and God help us all. And then we're going to talk about
Well,
No Way Home.
God help me. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm really stuck with all of you.
God help you
Yeah,
as the only
poor
sober
Ron.
person in this room right
Ron,
now.
he's a trooper. We love him.
We love him. He's the only reason him and Steve's secondhand
to the insanity.
skills.
Man, I feel like a first shot.
So we're gonna be back and we're gonna talk about No Way Home.